The franchise recap is on to season 33, War of the Worlds. Airing February to May 2019, this season saw 34 contestants head to the deserts of Namibia for 16 episodes of scorching competition, trying to win that $1 million prize. Evolutions were twofold here. First, lots of people from new shows. I'm not going to list them all. We had 18 rookies, a lot of them from the UK, all of them having done a prior season of reality TV, but a bunch of different shows across the UK and here in the States across the MTV and other networks. The doors were officially open to anyone who had done reality TV joining the challenge franchise at this point. Second, elim winners this season were safe the following round, and that is a twist that I absolutely love. Let's talk the stories of the season. Going cast first, as usual here. This was really Fresh Meat 3. Fresh Meat 4, if you want to count Bloodlines, that a little more separate, but similar idea. We're bringing in half new people with half people who've been here before, pairing them up. So it is very much a spiritual successor to the Fresh Meat franchise, and that is really hard to do. They nailed it most of the time. Bloodlines, of course, they really did not nail it, but they were more limited in who they were trying to cast there. This time around, they nail it. Everyone had been on reality TV before, is the difference between a true Fresh Meat versus this, but they do a phenomenal job with the casting. The rookie class is insane. Theo, Natalie, Maddie, Georgia, Dee, Ashley, Josh, Turbo, Bear. Yes, I know Bear becomes a sex predator in the very near future of this, and it's horrible, and it's hard to not watch this season and not think about it because he's in a relationship with the person that would all go down with on this season. But still, he's, for the time being, a piece of shit, but an entertaining piece of shit cast member. We've had a few of those before. Unfortunately, he goes on to be a true life piece of shit outside of the show. But overall, that crew, they nail it, and that crew lasts later into the game, which is a very important aspect of this too, because we do have a mixed group of eras in this cast, but most of the older folks lose right away, Wes and Kara being the exception. But with those two around them, we get a refreshing amount of time with new people and newer faces of the show the back half of the season, and it works wonderfully. In the order of how they go out to open the season, Ashley's in the first group out, Bananas is second, CT is third, Zach is fifth, Leroy is sixth. So all of them, era 2, 3 people, are gone quickly. Wes and Kara are the vets there, but then it's a whole bunch of new faces running the game. And it's basically just the rookies plus a Hunter, a Paulie, a Devon, Kyle. Those are the stars of this season. Romantically, there's a decent amount, but as I alluded to before, the biggest romance, the second biggest romance of the season is one. It's not great. Let's start with the other one. The biggest romance of the season is Kara and Paulie. We are now fully in them being a couple. They open the show giving one of their famous cringy if you're against them, hilarious and fun if you're for them, but we could have sex here, we could have sex there. If we needed to, we could have sex there. That whole moment, but they are together. Kyle is their antagonist still, or they choose Kyle as an antagonist in a lot of ways here. So that's going down. We've got Theo and Cam have a little showmance here to Leroy's disappointment. There's a little triangle situation going on there. Obviously, many years later, we know how that turns out. Glad it worked out for everyone involved. I think, I can't remember, correct me if I'm wrong in the comments below, YouTube, but I think Kyle and Maddie at some point become partners with benefits just for a second because it's fun. I'm not sure if I'm remembering that correct or not. We know Bananas and Morgan, partnered here off screen, once eliminated, become a couple for a while, for a year or two, I think, at least. And then, of course, there is Georgia and Bear, referenced before. Less said, the better. I love Georgia so much. She's a fantastic cast member. And as I said before, while being even on the show, obviously antagonistic, foil, piece of shit, saying ridiculous things, playing the victim after he provoked something, all the bad stuff, he was entertaining in this season in a look at this piece of shit kind of way. And obviously afterwards, though, some horrible things happened in the real world, and he was thankfully held to account for those things. But that was definitely a big plot during this season. Competitively, Three duos run this game: Paulie and Natalie, Kara and Theo, Wes and D. Obviously, Kara and Paulie working together. They get good picks and make good of those picks in the early draft, getting Ninja Natalie, getting Theo, and Wes getting D. Those three are almost always two of the three of them in the tribunal making the decisions. Four of those six would make the final this season after dominating it and running it, with one of those being Paulie not making it because of his inexplicable purge, and the sixth, D, losing a tough elimination late in the season. But those six really, really run things. And as much as Paulie and Kara are kind of at the center of operating the house, Wes is probably the main competitive political social storyline of the season. It's his dream scenario: more rookies than vets. He can round up people. He's got Hunter as his little protege. He's got his partner that he's literally training for the job as they are doing it in D. He is just in heaven, and he is playing mastermind, and he does a wonderful, wonderful job. The format of the show itself actually works incredibly well. It's one of my favorite formats of the back third of seasons, when the formats get more convoluted, when we have shifts throughout the season. This is one that I think worked flawlessly and is the kind I like if we're going to shift a time or two throughout the season. I loved this one. They start with the competition to pick a draft order. Then there's a draft. A draft is always great. Love, love, love it. And then their teams, the teams end up pretty solid, relatively fair. We do have the three that rise to the top, but it's pretty fair across the board. And then we go 8 rounds of pairs, 5 rounds of individual. Felt like a breakdown that flowed really well. And importantly, mixed gender here, back to mixed gender again, male, female pairs really helped the tribunal work much better than the previous Troika had. We couldn't have just a couple of guys take over and try to dominate the whole thing. And that all led up, of course, to the hardest final in the history of the show. TJ says this, Wes says this, Kara says this. Those are three people who have seen a lot of finals. And Wes and Kara, of course, it's not because they won this one or anything. Wes does get third, Kara fourth, I think. But I trust that all three of them are like, it's pretty hands down this one. Like, this was unbelievably brutal, but it was well done. A few day 2 things I would take back a little, the kind of waiting for someone else to have to do something. But overall, the first day especially was unbelievable. The whole final was great. I hate individual winners, but it is what it is. This one I think the season's elevated even further if this was even Theo winning, or a Wes or a Kara, if Paulie wouldn't have purged and he would have maybe got a win. Turbo winning, he becomes a character in the show, certainly, but it does dampen it a little tiny bit. I just never like individual winners. And to say how hard the final was, I mean, Georgia and Maddie medically DQ. Both are just too dehydrated, can't go on. Hunter might as well be considered a medical DQ when he has to do the elimination versus Natalie. And it's just like, dude, you can't walk anymore. You're done. You've got no liquid left in your bodies. It's insane that anyone finishes this. Turbo falls over at one point. Natalie falls over at one point. They're given IVs overnight, for crying out loud, because they literally had to, or else like people were going to get severely, severely hurt here. So hardest final ever. Amazing competition all around. 3 teams dominating. Other memorable moments, and these are not in order. I usually try to get these back in chronological order. These are not. So we're going to kind of skip around a bunch here. Josh getting his second chance, a really big kind of what if in the franchise. I'm sure he might have been invited back regardless, but he famously gets last in the opening purge. He is one of the 2 rookies that does not get to participate, immediately goes home, but poor Alan has broken his wrist and medically DQs. And so Josh comes right back in and has a solid rookie campaign, and obviously goes on for a very long and memorable challenge career at this point. The Doom Buggy Daily Challenge, climbing up the tires as they're dragged behind a dune buggy through the desert, is incredible and is definitely the highlight of the Mad Max theme that this season was going for. That one was the one that works the best for me, just visually is kind of really stunning and appealing and wonderful, and a really cool daily challenge that's both hard and looks super fun but super scary. Everything you want out of a daily. Also, the Crash Landing Daily Challenge, very similar. They do a puzzle while sitting in a plane that's being like a literal plane that's being moved around and shaken around, and it's messing with their puzzle pieces. They've got to finish the puzzle, then unbuckle and jump out of the plane into some water. Incredible, really well done. We mentioned it before, but one of the biggest moments of the season, Paulie, who has been dominant all season long, is probably been the best male competitor, maybe, if not at least like up there tied with Theo. Dives headfirst in the Judgment Day daily from 25, 30 feet up, decides to dive headfirst on the last daily, a purge, last place goes out. Clearly, I don't know if it's a full-blown concussion, but messes up his head on the dive, and he ends up not being able to complete it and getting purged, and possibly not a heavy favorite, but the probably slight favorite going into the final challenge is suddenly out and gone. Hunter gets a little revenge this season, going all the way back now to the first episode when he knocks out Ashley. He and Georgia knock out Ashley and Chase, I think is her partner, in the first elimination. He maybe celebrates a little too much, but again, he just had $500,000 stolen from him not that long ago, deserved or not. I understand why he was very excited to eliminate her from the game. Kyle wins a three-way pole wrestle to continue this underdog that seemingly can't lose arc that he has been on against JP and CT, because JP, excuse me, can't get all these acronyms. He just really wants to go against CT. He thinks CT's the coolest. CT famously afterwards, like, don't make it weird. Like, this is strange. Like, all of that. It's this. And then CT goes on to have Jay also, don't make it weird, the next season. So he's really having a lot of fun in the elimination rounds is CT at this point. The King of the World elimination, where Kyle beats Bear, is essentially Name That Coconut from Gauntlet 2, one of my all-time favorite eliminations. So I love that they brought that back, and it was great to see Kyle get the win over Bear there. Nany gets completely screwed this season, probably the most standout because of how maybe unfair of an elimination it was when Nany versus Georgia, except it really turns into Wes versus Turbo, because they have to pick a male to come down and help them by tying their opponent or taping their opponent to a chair, and then first to break free of that chair wins. Wes does not do a very good job tying Georgia. Turbo, formerly Nany's partner, does a fantastic job of tying her to the chair, almost as if he had done it before, maybe, who knows, but dumb twist of an elimination, really screwed Nany over. Theo bests Kyle in an epic hall brawl that, going into, Paulie says, if Kyle's down there and it's physical, I will volunteer. I will throw myself in. This was the moment we waited for. This whole rivalry, this back and forth, all of this angst and anger, and then Paulie doesn't do it. Now, should he have? No, for the game's sake, obviously, it's a dumb idea. Whether you win or not, it's a dumb idea. You don't need to throw yourself into that. But for the show's sake, he should have thrown himself in. Regardless, we get an epic battle. Theo barely beating an exhausted, pushing himself so far, Kyle in that hall brawl. Back all the way to the beginning of the season again, TJ leading the vets in on the ATVs was an unbelievable just visual to open the season on. I mentioned Cara and Paulie listing all the places they could have sex was definitely a moment. Amanda versus Jenna and Zach is in full force here. This is the season she drops. Zach has a Bumble account I saw when we got eliminated on the last season, et cetera, et cetera. That blow up is going down on this season. Josh is adorably, admirably trying to get teammate Amanda, like, it would probably be better if we just made out. He throws a couple of those out there sometimes in an adorable way, and it's wonderful. And also, like, good, shoot your shot, Josh. You missed, but who cares? Good job on you, and good job, Amanda, playfully being like, can you just be better? And they also have a very funny where he tries to explain the game and he explains it completely wrong, and she's like, so are we going to admit I'm the one who's played before and maybe knows what I'm doing? Loved everything between that duo. Wes teaching D to swim, and then immediately them going and winning a swimming-based daily challenge was pretty fun. And then, of course, in the final, again, hardest final ever, they get the IVs, but famously, Cara denies the IV, does not want to do it, wishes she didn't even have to be in the truck with all of them doing it as they sleep overnight. And guess what? I see you, Cara. Also scared of needles. I would have taken the IV. I'd get over it. I would hate it, but I would get over it. You should have taken it. It's an IV. You're running through the desert for the second straight day. Please take it. But I totally see her. I get her. A very big moment for sure. This season really doesn't have weak parts to it. It's maybe missing the high highs that would get this, anywhere near the all-time tier. But there's no weak parts. All the episodes are good. The cast is fantastic. The kind of order things happen in, the couple big moments where things change in a big way, like Paulie being purged, all of that. It's good to great to amazing all the way through. They nail a fresh meat style cast, which is super hard to do, and they do it. And we should remember that in seasons after this, they don't necessarily do it every time because it is so hard to do. So hats off to them here. Great cast, Really good season. It's going in the great tier, B+. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss the Battle of the Eras coverage coming up. And tomorrow we will be back with War of the Worlds 2.